So yeah, let's begin. Are we together? Who has the clicker? You have the clicker. Okay, good. The vision, okay, power vision. I'm trying to see how far we can go. I was almost tempted to break it up, but then I know next month is the month of love, okay, and I know that we'll have a few activities. So there is a team that's planning something on the week of Valentine's Day. So, and it's not just for people in relationships. Don't say again that it's a sign that I should be here. We had how many of us enjoyed last year's Valentine's activity? Even badly. Wow.
Oh, man, it was great.
Wow. It was good, yeah? So we are going to have an event quite similar to that. And I would like to invite you all to come. It's not going to be on the Friday, unless it's going to, it's on the Wednesday, so that will be the 12th, okay? You'll see communications coming, I think starting from the end of this weekend after that day. So tell your friends, but register early as well. Most times we don't have enough space, so we have to ticket the event to allow for proper planning, right? Yeah, free ticket. Okay, yeah, free ticket, but we just need it to plan well. Okay, good. I think that's all. So let's get into it. I want to talk about vision, like I mentioned earlier, and I want us to touch on a few things that I feel will help us really understand. You know, the more I'm speaking about this, the more I'm actually understanding the value of what it means to have a vision. I think there's a general understanding that vision is important, okay? But it's really, really, really important. Do you understand? And if you don't have a vision for your life, it's not a laughing matter, or it's not something that you should esteem lightly. Rather, it's something that you should consider very, very carefully to incorporate, that you have a vision, that you know where you're going. Do you understand? So I want us to drill down on this, and we're coming here from the angle of the power that vision has in the life of an individual, right? I know we've spoken like three sessions talking about the importance of a vision and how to make sure that our vision is clear last week. But today, what does vision really mean in the life of someone who carries it? What distinguishes a person who has vision and someone who doesn't? Also getting into things like, how do we get the vision for our life, right? How do you get that vision? And what do you do with that vision, okay? So you pray for me, okay, that we'll be able to finish, because I think it's gonna be a lot of stuff. But I'm gonna try and behave myself and, stay on track as much as possible so that we can get to the end. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Right, so let's get started. Feel free to take notes if you need to. Let's begin here. This has kind of been the theme scripture throughout the last few sessions. Proverbs 29:18, and it says the following. It says, where there is no vision, he says the people cast off restraint, or the people perish. I chose this rendering particularly because it brings out a certain meaning. When it says, without vision, people cast off restraint. And it says here, but happy is he who keeps the law. What does it mean when you say they cast off restraint? A restraint is something that keeps something within its boundaries. Do you understand? For example, in this building, there are gutters, okay? And there is water that flows through the gutters, okay? But what allows that water to flow in the direction that the builder wants? The edges of the gutters, those two sides, we call them what? Constraints. Are you understanding? When you're driving on the highway, there are some highways that they have barriers on the side, right? We call them barriers, but they're really what? Constraints. A barrier is something that's in the way. Do you understand? But a constraint could be made of a similar material, but it's on the side. And what is it meant to do? To keep cars in their lane. Do you understand? To help them get where they are going. Are we understanding? So without constraints, we see that constraints are there to give direction, to give guidance. Are we understanding? Such that he says, without vision, a people cast off restraint. So that means vision itself acts like a constraint. And without vision, our lives, they spill over everywhere. Our energy spills over anywhere. Our resources spill over everywhere. Do you understand? Why are they doing that? Because there is no constraint. There is nothing to direct them to the place or in the manner that they should go. Are we understanding? Mm-hmm. Are we seeing that? Mm-hmm. That if anything is worth your time, it needs to be guided. If anything is worth doing, it needs to be guided. That's why even in the abstract sense, there are things that we call policies and guidelines. You understand what I'm saying? They guide things, they guide conversations, they guide how we should behave, they guide all the things that we're supposed to do, so that things are organized in a manner that will bring profit or will bring gain to an organization or an individual. It says, without vision, the people cast off restraint. In other words, without vision, the people run wild. Do you understand? So a life without vision is a wild life. It's an unpredictable life. It's a life that cannot determine its end because it doesn't know. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when we're speaking about vision, setting those barriers that I can't just spend my time anyhow. I need to constrain myself to activities that profit me or bring gain to my life. Do you understand? I can't just use my resources anyhow. I need to constrain them to activities that will bring profit or gain to my life, things that will help me. Are we understanding? Vision acts as a constraint. Are we together? Yes. Right? Mm-hmm. So, it says here, without vision, like I said, your life, your time, your resources will spill over in all directions. You lose time, you lose opportunities because you lack vision. Not you. You is probable, okay? But anyone who has no vision is at risk of losing opportunities, time, resources. Do you understand? So it's so important to get a vision for your life. And then I went through a couple of definitions last week, and I think they were important. But even today, as I was trying to define these things some more, I found some interesting definitions. I think what we focused on last week was mainly the second part that says a vision is a mental image of what the future could be like, right? I think we talked about this visualizing and seeing what that future is in images. We said that's vision. But vision is also this, according to a simple dictionary. It says vision is the ability to think or plan for the future with imagination and wisdom. It's the ability to think and plan. Think and plan for the future with imagination. We talked about imagination a few weeks back. And wisdom. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. That someone would sit down deliberately and craft a plan for their life and say, in the next 20 years, this is exactly where I want to be. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. And by virtue of that vision, it sets things in motion. It determines how they spend their time. It determines their relationships. It determines how they spend their resources. You understand? Why? Because there is a vision constraining them, right? And when I say vision, sometimes I think there is an ambiguity, because someone may be talking about, are we talking about like dreams and visions kind of thing? No, I'm talking about vision in the sense of a point of focus, because that's what vision is. When you have vision, you have something defined that you're focusing on. Do you understand? Something that you're working towards, something that you're building, something that you're investing in, that in the end, you'll be able to see and appreciate. Do you understand what I'm saying here? Mm-hmm. So when I'm talking about vision, I'm not talking about just seeing things or hallucinations, or just there's a way that people see it, like in a funny way. I was sleeping and I saw a lizard, and no, that's not kind of vision. I'm talking about a point of focus.
Yeah, and also, for example, if you walk down the street, out of a sudden, like these things are at you because you have that vision, you think about it. So these topics are that you pay attention to them because there's in some way they may lead towards your vision in the future. And some people believe, it's a sign. It's a sign, but you actually are kind of like aware of it. You're seeking out for all these kind of information, so you pay attention to them, and that's why they're at you. That's why you see them. Whereas normally, if you didn't have that vision, you would pass by them and without even recognizing them, paying attention to them.
That's very true, because you realize, it's funny, very, very funny that you said that, and it's something we're going to touch on. When you have vision, then you know what you're looking for. You understand? And you know what it looks like. In the absence of vision, even if what you need is right in front of your eyes, you would never know it. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'll give you a good example. One of the times I went up to the rooftop of my company. I used to do that a lot, actually. I used to go to the rooftop of my company, and I used to like to pray there on top, right? The roof, right? Closer to heaven. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. So I used to walk around and pray there, and I honestly, I did it for long. And then for a while I stopped going up. And then recently, I went back up there to pray, right? And I did it for a couple of months. And as I was doing that, one of the things that I was praying for, okay, was, how do I put it? I was praying for things, I was praying for something, okay? And that something is in another building, okay? But in the process of me praying, for the first time, I was able to pick out that building in the skyline. I never knew. Now that's the thing. I had spent so much time there, and I had seen all buildings, but I had never noticed it. But this time, because there was something I was seeking, when I went up to that same place, I was able to see that building particularly and notice it. Do you understand? When you have vision, you are able to notice things that are relevant to you and to that vision. Do you understand? That even your vision or your attention, let me say, becomes constrained to things that matter. Do you understand? Without vision, your attention will be taken by anything and everything. But when you have vision, you realize, oh, these are not the kind of friends to keep, or these are the kind of friends to keep. Why? Because they are tying in to that vision that you have of your life. Are we getting it? Yeah. I feel like we've understood something there, right? So it's a point of focus. And you're able to judge easily because does this thing tie into my vision? If it doesn't, then no need to spend time there. But if it ties into my vision, then I can accommodate it, right? And godly vision consists of three things that I would like to maybe highlight. Number one is this, foresight. Say foresight. Foresight. Foresight is that ability to see far into the future. Okay? Far into the future. And if you are to relate it to an instrument, you would say foresight can be maybe what you use a telescope to see, right? Far into the future, or binoculars. Far into the future. Foresight, right? And foresight is so interesting because if you look at people who have achieved great things even beyond their death, one thing that they are accredited for having is what? Foresight. The Wright brothers, when they built a plane, people thought they were crazy, right? But they had foresight. They had vision that this thing could come to pass. Maybe not in my lifetime, but it will come to pass. Nikola Tesla and the things that he invented. Thomas Edison and the things that they invented. Isaac Newton and the things that they created that even now in the 21st century, we still struggle to understand. If you're not careful or if you're not keen on those things, you don't even understand why people appreciate them, but they appreciate them. You understand? That they were able to see things way beyond their ears. These people are called what? Visionaries. They were able to see beyond the constraints of the current time and look into a future that did not exist yet and see something that they could contribute to. Don't you think that's amazing? Yeah. That you're living in someone's vision now, and that person may not be alive. Vision is powerful because it goes beyond even the vision bearer. Do you understand? So, if you don't have a vision, you're really cheating yourself out of what life could bring you. You understand? You're deceiving yourself out of the power of a life guided by vision. Do you understand? And then there is this thing called insight. So there's foresight, but there is also insight. Because vision must be very much related to the vision bearer. Do you understand? Usually people have a vision in the area or in the field that they are most inclined to. Do you understand? I can imagine that if I have never sung a day in my life, if I have a vision of performing at the orchestra, what I may be having foresight, but I'm lacking insight, that I don't understand myself, I don't know who I am. Do you understand? And we touched on this a lot last week when we talked about clarity of vision. That vision is based on something, that there is something in you that is calling you to that great future. There is something in you that's causing you to gravitate towards that. And all of us have a different vision because we are different and unique in some way. You understand? It doesn't mean that we can't have similar vision. We can, as you will see later. But there has to be something in you that positions you to dream that way. Do you understand what we're saying? Mm-hmm. So insight, very, very important. The details of it. Do you understand? Because if I'm supposed to dream about me being an orchestra singer, the thing that will constrain me the most there is that I don't have sufficient information to fill in that vision with details. It will be vague. Do you understand? You understand? So your vision must be catered to who you are. Do you get what I'm saying? Right? And we're going to talk about what to do with the vision towards the end. And then there's hindsight. There's hindsight. Now, when you're driving a vehicle, the biggest view you have is facing where? Right? Because without it, there is no driving. You understand? There is no motion. So there is no confusion about the value of foresight, that it drives the vehicle. Looking where you're going is so important. Okay? But every now and again, if you have to be careful, there's this thing called the rear view mirror that you use to check what's happening behind you. To learn from mistakes. You understand? To adjust and correct. Do you understand what I'm saying? And you can call that experience. You can call that lessons from the past. You understand? But remember, the size of that is nothing compared to the whole windscreen that you have in front of you. Do you understand? So you use it, yes. Otherwise, you'll be detached from reality. You understand? If you don't spend any time learning, someone said something like, I don't know how. Anyway, I take it with a grain of salt. They said that life is lived forward but understood backwards. What do they mean? You say you live your life forward but you understand it looking back. There's so much value and lessons you can learn from the days past than maybe from the days present or the days. You understand? So that's the essence of a godly vision. That it has hindsight, and it has insight, and it has foresight. Are we together? Mm-hmm. Let's go. Now, question to you is, what is pulling you? What is pulling you? Now, I talked about foresight and hindsight, and both of them are important. There's a quote that says this. It says, a man without a vision is a man without a future. And a man without a future is a man who will return to his past. Don't you think that's crazy? This is a man without a vision is a man without a future. Why? Because vision is future oriented. You don't have a vision of where you are. You have a vision of where you want to be. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you don't have a vision of where you want to be, which is the future, then by extension you don't have a, when I say you don't have a future, I mean you have denied yourself the opportunity to contribute to that future meaningfully. And you allow yourself to be a victim of circumstances. That you don't take charge of what that world could look like. Either because you feel powerless in the current position, either because you don't believe that it's possible for your life to turn out that way, either because you have not seen it happen in the life of another person. But all these things really are not enough to stop a person with vision. Do you understand? That the people who had vision and accomplished great things did it against all odds. Do you understand? Do you understand? Yeah. So it says here that a man without a vision is a man without a future, and a man without a future is a man who will ultimately return to his past. There is these two forces that are pulling someone either forward or backwards. Vision is pulling you forward towards your future. But the past and regret and shame, right? Things that have already happened. Do you know they carry a power to pull you back? That's why when you spend so much time regretting, you ultimately realize that you're not making progress even on the matter that you're regretting about. Isn't it funny that you spend time regretting, but that time does not contribute towards you fixing that issue? But if you choose to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and work on yourself, you realize that you're advancing beyond that point of regret. Are we understanding? Right? And he says that if you glorify the past more than you anticipate the future, he says then there's no vision. You know, it's funny, there's a Bible verse in Ecclesiastes 7:10. It says this. He says, don't ask, why were the old days better than these? How many of us are guilty of that? That you find yourself saying, oh man, the good old days, when I was 16, man, life was easy, there was no bills, you know. And you know, you kind of marinate in that utopia that's not really there anymore. You use it like a consolation. Man, those days. And then you go to Facebook, you see memories from 10 years ago, and you share, and you tag your friend, you say, oh man, the good old days. And then you go to Google Photos, and it tells you, man, 2 years ago. And it's compiled a nice, listen, it's not bad, but I'm saying, a person who's consumed with their past is robbing themselves of a future, right? He says, if you glorify the past more than you anticipate, you understand? Your anticipation for the future should be greater than your glorification of the past. Weigh yourself. If you find yourself in a place where your past is more enticing than your future, it really means you have no vision. It means you have not created something to look forward to. Right? You have not created it. And you see, the funny thing with vision, it's so personal. It says our vision is a plan for the future with imagination and wisdom. So a person without vision has not employed imagination and wisdom to create that future. So they look at what has happened as the ceiling for what they could experience. And then the past now has that power to pull them back to where they were. Do you understand? Are we understanding? Everyone has a past and it has already occurred and it will never happen again. You know that? All of us have. How many of us don't have a past? If you have a now and future, only lift up your hand. Everyone has a past. But the thing with the past is that it will never happen again. It's gone. You understand? So there is no point spending time on it. But similarly, everyone has a future that has not happened. In other words, everyone has an opportunity. That's why I see vision as an equalizer. Do you understand? That even though your past may have been disadvantaged, your future is up to you to create. Do you understand? So you cannot blame anyone for not creating a vision for yourself. You understand what I'm saying? You cannot look at anyone and say, oh, I didn't dream about my future because, listen, you can't do it, but also it will not lead you to where you want to go. You understand what I'm saying? Shifting blame does not add to the vision, does not take you forward towards the vision. You have to take responsibility for your life and understand that it is you who is leading it. You understand? And start from where you are and build forward. Do you understand what we're saying? Right? And he says, make it such that you're always being pulled forward towards the future. Let not the past have a grip on you. Some people are so held back by what happened that they can never go forward. So held back. And it could be both. It could be both victories and disappointments. It could be both. Some people, the way they live their life, it's like they reach the pinnacle. And so everything there is downhill. So they keep glorifying that past. Like as if there is nothing more to come. That's a dangerous place. Then there are people who, it's because of the traumas of the past that they feel like they cannot go forward. It's not that they like the past, but they feel like they cannot go beyond it. Both of those individuals are at risk. Are we understanding? You know, I was even thinking about it. Even when you suspend a magnet, just like that, where does it end up pointing? North, right? It's going forward. I thought that was interesting, just naturally speaking. You suspend it and the direction it chooses to point will be what? North. Of course, that's symbolic, but I still think it's powerful. That even natural elements, even the course of life moves forward, not backwards. Do you understand? We count forward. You are built, constructed, looking this way. You understand? Your eyes, everything about you is facing. Anything that's facing backwards is not something to focus on. Are we understanding? But anyway, we are looking forward and we're going forward. And we should allow that gravitational pull to take us towards our future, not our past. Are we understanding? Let's move. So, what are the 5 things that vision does? Again, these things are not what do you call it? Exhaustive, comprehensive, conclusive. It's a bit hot in here. You're feeling hot? No, it's okay, it's okay. 5 things that vision does for the individual. I'm going to list them quickly and then we're going to turn to the next part. 1 is that vision contrasts/contradicts your reality. What does that mean? Because vision is future oriented, it cannot look like the present. Do you understand? And if it looks like the present, then it's not vision. Do you understand? If your vision for 10, 20 years looks like you today, then you need to go back to the drawing board. Because vision contrasts the present. It looks different. Do you understand? That's why when you begin a journey and you end up in the same place, you'll ask yourself, hey, what have I done? The point of beginning that journey is so that you end at a particular destination, which is different from where you started. Otherwise, there would have been no point in beginning the journey at all. You understand? So when you have vision, it's supposed to take you to somewhere that's drastically different from where you are today. The vision of your life should portray you as much better than you are today. And that's why the Bible has things like, He is able to do in us exceedingly, abundantly, above all that we can think, ask, or imagine, according to the power that works in us. Do you see that? How many adjectives are there? That He's able to do exceedingly, abundantly, above all that you can think, ask, or... So what's that? If you can't think it or imagine it, what is it? It's speaking about a future that's better, way beyond your wildest imaginations. Do you understand? That if your vision does not in any way threaten or make you uncomfortable, then you're not having the right kind of vision. Do you understand? That vision does not qualify because it does not have the gravitational pull to take you there if you're already there. Do you understand? Some of the companies that we see, they have visions that if we were told of them years before, we wouldn't believe it. You know? Nokia, for example, and they had that thing connecting people, and you see the two hands coming together, right? Mm-hmm. At the inception of that company, I'm sure there were some naysayers. Then you are saying that you think that there is a day that someone will have a device and another one will have a device and we can communicate. Forget about it. Why? Because they are judging the future based on the present. But the inventors of these things, they see a future that goes beyond the current moment. The ability to plan for the future with imagination and wisdom. That means your vision should include things that don't currently exist. It's not a light task to write the vision for your life. What I mean is, it needs time, it needs attention, it needs reflection. If it's to be written correctly, or if it's to be done right. Do you understand? Vision is so powerful that those phrases that you say connecting people, eventually billions of people have these devices in their pockets. But they're not even aware that is happening because there is a vision that's powering it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right? You may not have been told about it, but in the early 2000s, everyone's mother and uncle was going for those schools, right? To fulfill a vision that they didn't even know existed. So it contradicts the present. Let me tell you now, your vision should not look like the present. It should not depend on what you have or what you don't have. It should not depend on what you think you can do or what you can't do. It's an opportunity for you to create to the world God's care. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. As you would have it. And because it contradicts the present, because of that, I think that's why it's so hard for people to believe in that future. Do you understand? It's so hard for people to believe because, it takes faith to trust that life, that image of me will come to pass. Because when you look at yourself now, there is no signs even for that future. But if you have that kind of vision, we are being told that you're on the right path. Because it's supposed to be big, it's supposed to be scary, it's supposed to be intimidating. You understand? If it could be done, there's no point for it to be part of your mission, right? And in line with that, it says it will confront your sense of comfort. When you start to have a vision for your life, you might notice that it challenges maybe the things that you do right now without purpose. You understand? It might cause you to start to shake off some things that you do, not because they are bad, some of them are bad, but because you realize me spending time here does not contribute to that vision. So you move from being a spender to being a what?
Saver.
Investor. Mm-hmm. Someone said spender too. Saver. Right, say investor. You see, saving without a vision is also pointless. I would rather say you invest. You move from being a joker, and I'm not saying like someone who's not serious with life, to someone who applies diligence to their life and the things that they do. You move from taking yourself lightly to taking yourself seriously. Mm-hmm. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Vision has that power to help you confront yourself on weaknesses that no one else can tell you. You understand? You spend so much time on the phone. If they tell you get angry, the only thing that can help you is when you have a vision and you realize this time that I'm spending here does not in any way help me get to where I need to go. So you drop some things. Why? Because you're working towards something. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. So much time is wasted. So much energy is wasted. So many resources are wasted simply because people don't have vision. They don't know where they're going. And they don't even know where they want to go. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Let me tell you, there is no one in this world who is incapable of dreaming for their lives. If you have believed that, it's a lie. God has given you the faculty, the wisdom, the ability. If you can spend time worrying and imagining bad things about your life, it's the same imagination that you can use to imagine the best outcome for your life. How many of us have spent time worrying and imagining things that are not good for us? Okay. The fact that you can do that means you have, in fact, you've been training all this time. You've been training, putting your imagination to good use. Such that when you understand the power that imagination carries, you can put it into building a vision for your life. You understand what I'm saying? The time that you spend 3, 4, 5 hours worrying is the same time you can spend adding details to that vision that you want fulfilled.
I feel sometimes like when you have certain things that you would like to create as an habit, so it's an investment for your future, but it's very difficult for you to do it. It's very important to kind of know yourself and make little tricks that can work in order to push you into it, because sometimes it's just very hard to get up and do it. But if you think of it in the sense of like, it's only one day I have to do it, or maybe it's 5 minutes, it's not gonna kill me. You kind of try to like set your mind toward it, like create some idea that it's not actually as difficult as it can be. And if I don't do it, that would be just ridiculous that I haven't done it because it's just 5 minutes of my day. You know, so like depending, everybody is different. So depending on like the trick that would work on you, it's very important to establish certain tricks if you need them in order to do things that are an investment for your future.
Yeah, exactly. It's recognizing that, and you see, a vision is something you're building, something that you're working towards. It's the 2-3 minutes, 5 minutes a day that you're contributing towards it that really matters. You understand? Rather start putting 2 minutes into thinking, learning, designing, whatever it is you're trying to do, as opposed to say, oh no, I'm gonna start.
And it's normally never 5 minutes, it's like an hour. You
Yeah.
end up doing it for longer, and then like you repeat and repeat, and then it just becomes a habit. You kind of cannot live without it anymore. And you see the difference.
Exactly, right? So vision, like we said earlier, and we're gonna see here, it helps you to constrain your resources or direct your resources, your energy, your focus in a particular direction. Are we together? Right? Like I mentioned earlier, it says vision conceives new opportunities. They say that, yeah, wisdom is the mother of all witty invention. But someone also said that constraint is the mother of innovation. When you're faced with roadblocks and challenges, that's how people come up with solutions for the world's problem. Do you understand what I'm saying? That the fact that something hasn't been done, or the fact that you're facing a challenge, vision carries the power to conceive new opportunities. How many businesses have been birthed out of problems? Right? How many businesses exist to solve a problem? You know, nearly every product you have, everything you've ever bought, you bought it because it was an opportunity to solve a problem. Someone thought about it. Do you understand? That's why people, when they say, oh, when you build a business, don't just look for the profitability of it, but they tell you, try and solve a problem. Yeah. Try and solve a problem. In solving a problem, people will see the value of your idea. You understand? So vision conceives opportunity. As you dream and as you try to think, how am I gonna get myself there? Opportunities arise. You start to even see things that were there presently, but you never thought you could use. You understand? It's not until you're stuck somewhere in a forest without matchsticks then you realize, oh, I can actually start a fire with a magnifying glass or with 2 pieces of wood. Without that opportunity, the problem you're facing, you would never spend time thinking outside of the box to fix that issue. You understand? So vision, it gives us the power to conceive opportunity, to solve problems, right? So it's an incubator for solutions. But also ultimately, it will connect you to resources, right? Think about it. When you think about the whole tech startup culture, what happens? People are selling visions and investors are putting money in the vision. You know that's what it is? Have you seen Shark Tank? You have 5 minutes to give a pitch and you sell a vision. And based on that vision, someone decides, I want to allocate resources to this. Do you understand? So vision connects you to resources. Some people spend so many hours looking for resources and not enough time building that vision. Because if the vision is built well enough, you do not need to look for resources as much as you think. Because they will see the value of it. They will see what the vision is trying to achieve and they will want to be a part of it. Do you understand? Right? And he says here, it will concentrate your energy. Energy is so important. You know, in this life, there are limitations on your time, on your energy. Do you understand? You don't have endless time. You don't have endless energy. But vision helps you to direct your energy and resources on things that matter, such that your life becomes fulfilling. You understand? Such that you don't keep burning out every 3 months. So that you don't keep giving up every 2 weeks or every 2 years. Giving up 2 weeks. But yeah, no, sometimes, you know, people go through 1 week is good, 1 week is bad, 1 week is good, 1 week is bad. Oftentimes in that case, what's lacking? It's vision. Don't know where you're going. You understand? And it's even difficult to learn from the bad weeks because there is nowhere where you're going. That challenge is not attached to anything. It's just a wasted day.
It's just, sorry.
Yeah.
One little example, for example, I used to wake up and like not want to face the day. I wanted to stay in my dreams. I felt comfortable and warm in the bed. And like, because there was like no idea what I'm gonna do for the day. But once I started to have like by the bed, like a, Monday, Tuesday, Friday, like I wrote down what I will do more or less for the week. And as the week progresses, I add more because there's other things coming up. The moment I wake up, I grab it. I'm like, I have things to do. I get up and make myself a coffee, and I'm already like super motivated for the day because I have a purpose of the day. So a little example like that, it's like the same for your vision for the future. It's kind of, it really works. Like it has that direction, so you know what to do instead of just like floating in the unknown,
Exactly. Right? I don't know what they call it. I don't know if it's, there's a term for it where you're just living, you don't have anything, especially with your spare time. You understand? I know you're working, but you're building someone else's vision there. What are you doing in your own life? You understand? You notice once you get off work, a lot of people, there's nothing. Cook, you sleep, nothing. Nothing that they're doing that speaks to that thing in them that needs to be awakened. You understand? And that's why it's so important to have a vision. It doesn't even matter how small you start. Even if you're alone, have that vision. It's more valuable than that job because it will outlive it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You understand? A lot of the companies that have been built, those people who started were employees in those companies. But what did they have? Vision. They said, I can make something out of this. You understand? Are we getting it? Mm-hmm. Am I talking too big? Do you want me to reduce a bit? Right? Yeah. That I don't want you to be comfortable with the predictable realm of your life where you see they go to work, come back. Okay, the farthest you think is to do a master's or a PhD. Not that they are bad, but think beyond that. Right? I told you a lot of people are able to see 2 to 3 years into the future. That's the max. 2 Christmases. That's it. But beyond that, it's blank. Yet, you have what it takes to define that future. You have what it takes to determine what that blank space will be filled with. Do you understand? So it needs some investment. Yes?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
That's, I don't want to make a completely more.
Don't worry.
Well, I just wanted to ask, because I totally agree with everything that all can be built outside of work, and that's where my question is going to be work. So the society I'm living now and the way that the world is structured now, many times we don't have the time or resources to think beyond, or maybe not think beyond to do even the things that we are very every part of. It's just really difficult sometimes because you're drained from work. Capitalism generally is draining. Or I'm very anti-capitalism, by the way. It's very draining, and we are not motivated because we don't necessarily have third spaces. People, this is the third space for a lot of people right now, which is great, but we don't have places like this. People can go on being motivated and think about the ambition and something outside of work. And many people don't have the opportunity to listen to something like this. They just feel that, okay, let's just continue working forever. And how do we reconcile that, like, we need to actually have something outside work, outside our 9 to 5, ways to, having our own thing going on? What if we don't know what we want? How do we get to that point that we know that, okay, this is what I want for myself? But sometimes just don't know because we don't have the resources to actually know. We think that this is what life is and this is what should be. And again, the society and the way that the body structure doesn't necessarily allow us to explore So I don't know if this makes sense.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. And you know, like, that's the truth. You have to fight for your vision. No one's gonna just tell you, yeah, you know, here's like 3 years, just spend time. You have to fight for that. And you mentioned something like there's not many spaces like this, and it's true. And this is one of them. We're glad that it's here. And how do they know? You tell them, and you share, and you invite them so that they can know. But as well, that's when you recognize that not everyone gets this information early enough to do something. So if you have it, make sure you are doing something about it, letting people know. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's true, like I said, this one is almost designed in that way. That if you don't make a deliberate decision to break from that mold, you will follow the rat race or the cycles of life to your detriment, right? So one, if you have
we are lucky that we
exactly that we can know these things, and that we should use that as an opportunity to advance and pull others along the way, right? Recognize that, oh, there's more to life than the 9 to 5, right?
And also, we're very lucky to be in the era where information is literally on your computer. So we have a lot of access to information, a lot of videos, a lot of knowledge that is literally all over the place, given by so many people across the world. We're so lucky to have that access. And even this is how I found out about this place. Internet, you know, and then ended up here, and very happy and very grateful to be here. We're lucky to be here. And again, spreading the word. If you're here, you know who to tell to be here too, you know. I think internet also does a great job. It's just basically doing the job. You know, you have to go and do it. And also, you know, with the time, you said you need time to do that. I think it needs to be like, instead of thinking, I don't have this, I don't have that, you would need to switch it to kind of like solution-based, solution-oriented. Like, okay, make the time. I get up, instead of maybe sleeping a little bit longer, I can do that meanwhile while I'm getting that, You know, like work around what you can, like what you have.
I don't understand that, but I feel
I think we'll continue the discussion because of time. But the thing is, fight for your vision. It's true, not everyone will get to the information quickly. But the fact that you had it, that means you have some kind of advantage. But we'll talk later, right? Set to concentrate your energy, right? To constrain your energy, to focus based on that. And you see, when I look at the life of Jesus, I was so impressed that he was so deliberate about where and how he spent his energy. That he would do a lot of activities, but at the end of the day, he would go back and pray regardless. You understand? That even when someone touched him without him necessarily giving consent, and that person got healed, he was able to account for that energy, because he says, someone touched me and I felt virtue leave me. You understand? It's interesting. He was able to account. We don't even account for our energy, you know that. Sometimes you have a conversation with someone 10 minutes, you hang up, you're depressed. You understand? Sometimes you spend 10 minutes in an environment, you feel utterly drained. The problem is you don't learn. You keep going back. I don't know if you're trying to prove a point. You understand? But once you notice that there are things that are taking from you and not adding, you separate. You understand? Conserve your energy, not just your time. Some people are not worth your anger. You know? Some people here, anytime someone offends, say, I need to give you a piece of my mind. I want to show you my true colors. You're wasting time, you're wasting your anger, you're wasting it. Direct your anger towards your problems. You know? Face, you know, God solve you. You know, that kind of thing. But you're shouting at someone and it's not productive. Do you understand? Redirect your energy, conserve it. Take it towards something that will actually be meaningful and that will count for something in your future. Are we together? Let's go quickly. I need to wrap up because hey, next. Oh, yeah. Okay.
14.
It should.
What? I'm checking it on.
Click it many times.
No.
Right.
You're pointing towards the laptop.
Is it on? Very good. Let me check. Could we put out? Done? It's not green. Okay. There we go. There we go. So I think you need to sit there. If it's not working yet. Oh, okay. It's working. Okay. Perfect. No, we are here, but I want us to answer the question, how do you receive a vision for your life? How do you receive a vision? And there are a couple of ways. I know this gets confusing for some people, right? But hopefully in speaking through this, you'll be able to see that there are different ways that you can get that vision for your life. Are we getting it? That one, it's possible, but there are different ways that you can access that vision. And it's so important that you listen here so that you see it. Maybe I already received the vision for my life, I'm just not working towards it. And that's really the case for many people, you understand? That you already kind of know or have an inclination, but you just haven't spent time pouring into that, okay? Look at the story here of a man called Paul, who wrote 2/3 of the New Testament. And I thought his was interesting, okay? He received the vision of his life through something called a spiritual revelation, okay? He actually had a divine encounter that helped him see what he needed to do, where he needed to spend his time, where he needed to dedicate his life. Okay? Now, many people believe that this is the only way you can know what you need to do. But I'll tell you, it's not true. Why? Because there are people who don't even believe in God, yet have had visions for their life and have succeeded. Now, I'm not saying that that's the way. I'm just saying the vision for your life is really an opportunity that God has given to everyone. Do you understand? Are we getting it? Yes. Of course, here we preach Jesus and we preach that you know God and walk with Him. But it's not only through spiritual revelation that you know what the vision of your life is. This is one way. And in other ways, especially the more spiritual you are, the more you grow, the easier it is for you to confirm the vision for your life this way. But it's not the only way. Are we together? Listen to what happened to Paul here and how he got the vision for his life. Mind you, the time this was happening to Paul, he was not on any particular spiritual journey. If anything, he was on the contrary, right? He was doing the opposite of what he was actually told to do in the vision. So this was not a person whose desires would have led him to that vision ultimately. If it was left to him, he would have destroyed more. And so God sought to intervene and give him the accurate vision of what he should spend his time doing. Let's read this quickly. It says here, now this is his own account and he's speaking. He says, while thus occupied as I journeyed to Damascus with authority and commission from the chief priests, he says, at midday, O king, along the road, this is called the Damascus Road experience. He says, along the road, I saw a light from heaven. Okay, he's recounting this story to a king. And he says, brighter than the sun. And he says, shining around me and those who journey with me. And he says in the verse 14, and when we all had fallen to the ground, he says, I had a voice. I had a voice. I had a voice. Not everyone had a voice. I had a voice. And he said, he is speaking to me and saying in the Hebrew language, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? So he's having a vision, an encounter, supernatural, in what he thought was the purpose for his life. Because he was going to kill Christians. But on the way, he has this vision that contradicts his present, that contrasts what he's currently doing. So it says here that, Saul, why are you persecuting me? It is hard for you to kick against the gods. He says, and then it says in verse 15, so I said, who are you, Lord? And he said, I am Jesus whom you are persecuting. And he says in verse 16, but rise and stand on your feet, for I have appeared to you for this purpose. In other words, Jesus appeared to Paul for a very specific purpose. He interrupted his journey for a very specific purpose, okay? It says to make you a minister and a witness both of the things which you have seen and the things which I will yet reveal to you. Do you understand? So I want to make you a minister of the things that you have seen now and the things that I will reveal to you in the future. Right? And it says here that I will deliver you from the Jewish people as well as the Gentiles to whom I now send you. You can see that he's revealing exactly what he's meant to do. right? I send you to those people. And he said to open their eyes and in order to turn them from darkness to light, telling him what Paul was sent to do. And he says from the power of Satan to God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and inheritance among those who are sanctified by faith in me. End quote. So he had a vision and these are the things that he had. And he's telling this to someone else. And he says in the verse 19, therefore, King Agrippa, he says, I was not disobedient to the heavenly vision. In other words, I saw the vision for my life. I was told the details of it and I followed suit. If you read the story in Acts 9, you will see how Paul converted from being a persecutor, a killer, to becoming someone who is actually taking the very message that he was trying to kill to the people that he was trying to kill and beyond. Are we understanding? So he had a spiritual encounter. Okay? And this is important, and I wish that we all do. But sometimes when we get in a state where we feel like I can't do anything with my life except that this happens, a lot of people forgo many opportunities and they don't listen to other ways through which God is speaking to them, as I'm going to show you. And they are all in the scripture. Are we together? So Paul had a spiritual revelation. And this is not something that you force God to give you. You understand? It comes, and when you receive it, good, you run with it. Many people have received a spiritual revelation of what their vision is, but have still not heeded. Do you know that? Do you know that? That you received a vision for your life spiritually or in a divine manner does not mean you will do it. Paul said here, I was not disobedient to the heavenly vision. There are people who have received a vision similar, but still went ahead about their business. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it is no guarantee that a spiritual revelation will consecrate you to do what you need to do. There has to be a certain thing in your heart that allows you to follow and to be obedient, even when it's contrary to what you know or what you used to do. Right? So how do we get the vision? One can be through spiritual revelation. Can we go next? Another way, which I find is most common for people, is something I'm going to call deep concern. In your life, there are things that you find a particular happiness or your heart goes out to them. You understand? And it's not common to everyone. Some people are more, some things move their hearts more. It could be orphans. It could be like me particularly. My heart aches when I see a person who has not come to the understanding of who they are in Christ. When they don't know that God loves them. When they are living life with such difficulty because they've not learned to rely on a God who is on their side. My heart aches for that, Deep concern. And I'm not saying worry for a reason. Because it's not worry, it's care. That when you see people out there on the streets, you're not like, oh, I wish I could do something. But your heart bleeds for people in particular conditions. And that's usually a good sign that God is putting something in your heart. Something that you can be able to do. Something that you can be able to contribute in society. Look at the life of Nehemiah. He did not have a vision per se. Nehemiah, if anything, was working. He says he was like the king's cupbearer. He had a regular job. But one of his friends came to him and shared with him the state of his people. And out of that, he was filled with deep concern. And from there, Nehemiah went ahead to build the wall to protect the people. Why? Is it because he saw a vision? Is it because God spoke to him? It's because he felt a deep concern for a matter that touched his heart. And he prayed and he went ahead to fulfill that. Are we understanding? Read the book of Nehemiah. It's a very good example of someone who had a deep concern for an issue. And they invested time, energy in making sure that they can solve that problem. You understand? Look, it says here, these are the memoirs or the words of Nehemiah, son of Habakkuk. Okay, we're good, right? These are the words of Nehemiah, son of Habakkuk, in late autumn, in the month of Kislev, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes. Lots of words, right? He says, I was the fortress, it's an autobiography, so he's writing, I was the fortress of Susa, and then one of my brothers came to visit me with some other men who had just arrived from Judah, right? And he said, I asked them about the Jews who had returned from the captivity and how things were going in Jerusalem. Listen, he says, they said to me, things are not going well for those who return to the province of Judah. They are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem has been torn down and the gates have been destroyed by fire. He says, when I heard this, I sat down and wept. Okay? And he says, in fact, for days I mourned, fasted, and prayed to the God of heaven. It goes beyond just emotion, but it becomes something that moves you to act. Do you understand? Every one of us can hear a sad story and cry, but not everyone will choose to take a decision based on what they've had. So he had it, and it troubled him, and he decided to do something here. And he says in the verse, I think 8, he says, "O Lord God of heaven, great and awesome God, who keeps his covenant of unfailing love with those who love him and obey his commands." He says, listen to my prayer. Look down and see me praying night and day for the people of Israel. He says, I confess that we have sinned against you. Yes, even my own family and I have sinned. We have sinned terribly by not obeying the commands, decrees, and regulations that you've given us through your servant Moses. And he says in verse 7, he says, the people you rescued by your great power and strong hand are your servants. He says, oh Lord, please hear my prayer. Listen to the prayers of those of us who delight in honoring you. And he says, please grant me success today by making the king favorable to me. And he says, put into his heart to be kind to me. And he says, in those days, I was the king's cupbearer. So he explains to you the beginning of why Nehemiah went to build the wall. He heard someone saying, things are not good back home. And it made his heart cry. And he mourned and he fasted. And that led him to pray and seek direction. And in the seeking direction, he said, Lord, give me success before the king. And what did he do? Did he sit back and wait for the king to call him? No. He went before the king and said, if I found favor in the hands, allow me to go back home so I can rebuild the wall of Jerusalem. And the king, who was not even part of that tribe, granted him, right? Because there was something in the vision that he had and the way he articulated it to the king that caused him to see, this person, he's worked with me, this thing touches his heart, let me allow him to go and fulfill it. So the whole book of Nehemiah, we are walking through the vision of a man who had deep concern for people. He didn't see any natural light or loud voice. He just had a deep concern. So my question is, what are the deep concerns that are in your heart? You understand? What are those things that you care so deeply for, but maybe have shunned because you feel like I'm not capable of actually changing that situation? What you need to change first is your mindset. To see that actually this deep concern that I've had for this matter for years must mean that there is something in my heart that's crying out for that situation to change. And if I'm the one who is seeing it, then I'm the one who can fix it. Do you understand? If you are seeing, you know they say if you see a problem, that means you're the one to fix it. But oftentimes, we train ourselves to just become ladies first. Does that affect me? Does it touch my bottom line? Still earning? No. But that's someone who has not caught a vision. Like I said, Nehemiah was working, he had a job. But when the matter came and it pressed his heart, he did not ignore it. He heard it and he did something about it. You understand? He went ahead and do it. Right, next. So we talked about, who do you talk about first? Paul and the spiritual revelation. That's great, right? And I pray that we all receive it. But don't ignore the deep concerns that you have. Foregoing a deep concern saying I'm waiting for spiritual revelation. Do you understand? Then we have something here called, and maybe this might touch on what you're saying, association and impartation. That sometimes visions are contagious. If you don't have a vision, hang around people who have a vision. You catch a vision. Do you understand? If you're not motivated, hang around people who are motivated. You'll be what? Motivated. You know, it's so funny when I was looking, I saw pictures of all these billionaires 20 years ago. They knew each other. It's true. They knew, you know, for us, like you started hearing about Elon Musk in 2021. But these guys, their circles they formed. You understand? And they felt the same way, and that's why you see the results are similar. You understand what I'm saying? So if you're struggling, you've tried, the vision is not coming, there is no deep concern, there is no spiritual revelation. This one, you just hang around people with a vision. You will get it. Or you will get a vision. Do you understand what I'm saying?
All the musicians I know, they all know each
Yeah,
other.
see?
They literally all know each other.
See, what is it? Birds of a feather?
No.
Flock together. See your sum total of the 5 friends that you have. They say if you're in a room with 5 fools, count again, there are 6, right? Because there is no way that you can escape the influence of your circle, right? One bad potato ruins the batch. So many sayings, but they are all communicating the same thing. It says here in Proverbs 13:20, it says, he who walks with wise men will be wise. So even if that person is a fool, if they walk with wise men, they will become wise. How about if a wise man walks with fools? Become a fool as well. How about if someone without vision walks with people with vision? They'll what? They'll carry vision too. You understand? What if people without a vision, or people with a vision walk with people without a vision? The vision will die. Look at the story of Joseph. He told his vision to people who did not have a vision, and they tried to kill him. The reason why people are not believing you is because they are not the right people. Look for the people who will believe in what you're trying to do. Do you understand what we're saying? Right? It says, he who walks with the wise will be wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed. Okay? In Proverbs 22:24-25, it says the following. It says, do not make friends with a hot-tempered man. Don't associate with one who is easily angered. Why? It says, lest you learn his ways and set a snare for your soul. Lest you learn his ways. You have to be careful. That means if you hang around with people without vision, you will learn their ways. And you'll get comfortable in that. But if you associate with people who are visionary, who are forward thinking, you will also learn their ways. Are we understanding? Proverbs 27:17, he says, iron sharpens iron. He says, so a man sharpens the countenance of his friend. Who is that friend that's sharpening you? Or who is that friend that's making you dull? Do you understand? There are relationships that are not helping you. Wasting time through and through, both of you. There's not even bad, you're both bad for each other. You need to come to a mutual agreement and say, guys, we're not going anywhere. Let's meet in 20 years. Okay?
That's how, yeah.
Think of when you take pictures like this. You know it's very hard. That's why you have to fight for your vision. Right? When you take pictures of people like this, 20 years, who will those people be? I'm not saying don't take pictures. Right? Like I'm just saying, who will those people be? How will you explain those to your children? And this is, so I would say, I don't even know, I forgot. But you're ignoring on purpose. You didn't prepare an answer in advance. Right? Look at this, it says here in Deuteronomy 34:6. It says, and Joshua, son of Nun, was full of the spirit of wisdom. So it explained, it says, for Moses had laid his hands upon him. But because Moses laid his hands upon him. In other words, the only reason Joshua was wise is because he was in the company of Moses. Are you understanding? And he says, and so the Israelites listened to him and did as the Lord commanded Moses. People listened to Joshua because of Joshua became wise because of Moses. He led the people because of Moses. And if you look at his life, very interesting young man, that he attached himself to Moses so closely. When Moses would go and pray, he would just sit there by the tent. When Moses had gone up, he stays there and he studies the man. Eventually, he got a vision. He was not his son. He was not his relative. He was the person closest to that vision. Are we understanding? He says here also of Elisha in 2 Kings 2 9 to 14. about Elisha and Elijah. I'm going to read quickly. I can't really take time to explain. Wow, time is gone. He says, so it was when they had crossed over that Elijah said to Elisha, ask what I may do for you before I am taken away from you. And he says, Elisha said, please let a double portion of your spirit be upon me. Right? Elisha is saying, so he said, you have asked a hard thing. He says, nevertheless, if you see me when I am taken from you, he says, it shall be so for you. But if not, it shall not be so. So he says, whatever you desire, if you are around me when I'm going, you will have it. Speaking of association, do you understand? Some people are successful virtually because they are associated to the right people. You understand? Don't downplay the power of association. You get it? And I'm not talking about sucking up. No, I'm talking about that there are people you can actually learn from. If you can make the decision to be humble enough. Do you get it? To be humble enough to listen and to learn from those who've gone ahead of you. You understand? There's a reason why we are not all born the same day. You get it? So that people can have certain experiences that you can benefit from. He says here then it happened as they continued on and talked. He says then suddenly a chariot appeared with the horses of fire and separated the two of them. And Elijah went up in a whirlwind into heaven. He says, and Elisha saw it. Remember, he was told, if you see me go, you will get what you ask. He says, and Elisha saw it. In other words, he was right. He was just around there. Just around there. And he says, and he cried out, my father, the chariot of Israel and horsemen. So he saw him no more. And he took hold of his own clothes and tore them into pieces. So he had certain coat and he rended it. And he said here, he also took up the mantle of Elijah that had fallen from him. He actually took on another man's vision when that person was departed. You see, in certain companies, if the CEO if the CEO is retiring, sometimes it's no surprise he'll take over, right? Sometimes it's no surprise because there was someone who was close by. Do you get it? And it's not just by these people. Sometimes have also learned and have qualified themselves. They've allowed themselves to learn such that they qualify for the job itself. You understand? So association and impartation, being around certain people who have that vision. You understand? You can't say that you want to be let me pick on with patience. A great astronaut, the greatest astronaut who ever lived, and you've never even gone to NASA. You understand? Or added any, you get what I'm saying? If you've not gone to NASA, we'll work on it, right? But I'm just giving you examples, right? That you have never done anything that even shows you the reality of your vision. Someone is lying, right? If it's yours and your vision, you must learn to associate with the right people. It might look foolish in the moment, but the end will speak, as it says in Habakkuk 2. Let's go quickly. I need to finish. I knew this was going to be a long one, but God has helped us. We are done. So then, what do you do with the vision? What do you do with the vision? When you receive the vision, I don't know if I have time, but I'll go through it quickly. If we need to touch back on it, we will in the future. Right? It says here in Habakkuk 2:2-3. It says, then the Lord answered and said, write the vision. And he says, and make it plain on tablets and iPads. Make it plain on tablets. And he says that he may run who reads it. There's no iPads there. I'm just kidding. I know some people are there. Where is he reading? I'm just kidding, right? For the vision is yet for an appointed time. And he says, but at the end it will speak and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come. He says, it will not tarry. 6 steps there to learn about vision. That number 1, when you're saying you have a vision, it must be written down. You're talking about that, right? You know, it's so important to write down your vision. Do you know any serious agreement you do today, you must write down? You get married? Write down. Buy a car? Write down. Do you understand? Contract, job? Write down. Why? It indicates commitment. Do you understand? The vision is not yours until you've written it down. Do you understand? I know some people who hear certain ideas have succeeded and say, I I even thought about that. I had that idea. What did you did commit? You didn't write it down. You didn't put it in. Do you understand? So don't cry when someone else starts to write it down and follow that vision. A vision must be written. I'm not talking spiritually, I'm talking physically. Write it down. You understand? Let there be a place. It says this is the vision for Rahab. Right? That you've written something down so deliberately, so intentionally. You know where to find it. You understand? You revisit it. You adjust it. Do you get what I'm saying? So write it down. He starts there, write the vision. And he says, make it plain. Commit to it here. And it's in the second part, talk about version of it. Because, you see, you can't write a vision and say, I want to be great. And then, end of story. That doesn't make sense, right? It can't work. You need to break down that vision into small, actionable steps that you can start today. Things that you can do to contribute to that vision. Right? Make it plain. In other words, make it clear. Let it not be vague. Let it be open so that when someone sees the vision, even you, when you see the vision, you know what's required of you. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you haven't written it down, there is no accountability. Do you get what I'm saying? You know, some of us, we say accountability partner, but you've never even written down what you want to be accountable for. So you're depending on someone else to remind you. They themselves also are in the same situation. 2 weeks later, you've both forgotten what you're even trying to achieve. Write it down. That's the first step of accountability. And break it down into small, actionable steps. Okay? And it says there, it says, make it plain. It says on tablet, that he who reads it, that he may run who reads it. Listen, your vision must inspire some sort of action. Are you understanding? Your vision must stir up something in someone or in you. Do you get it? It must make you want to run, to participate, to do something. It must make you want to act. Think about it. Even when you are trying to get a loan for a business, the first thing they ask you for is what? A business, not a personal loan. What do they ask you for? Business plan, correct? Why are they asking? Because when they see that vision and they read it and they like it, they will act. Do you understand? Similarly, when people hear your vision, it should inspire them to do something. A lot of business says are denied loans because simply their vision doesn't inspire any action. You just read it like, I think you need to go back to the drawing board. You need to re-strategize. Your vision must inspire action in you and in others. It says that he may run who reads it. That whoever sees that vision, say, I want to help that woman. I want to help that man. You understand? That vision must inspire action. And that's why it can't look like today. You understand? It has to look like something that has not been seen. And it says here then, in the verse 4, in the fourth point, that it takes time. Really, visions are not built overnight. You understand? It takes a certain level of commitment to know that I may not see its fulfillment now, but if I keep pressing, what I desire will come to pass. He says the vision is yet for appointed time. So your vision must have a time frame. Must have a time frame. And it can't be 2 to 3 years. It can't even be 5 years. At the least, it should be 10 years. But even then, no. At least 20 years that you've thought about something. Do you understand what I'm saying? That you thought that, oh man, 20 years from now, this is what I would like. And you work backwards to see how this would work. Do you understand? It's not a mystery. Okay, I hate time is gone. It's not a mystery. Vision drives action. It takes us to that future. Do you understand? So if you don't stipulate it, if you don't indicate it, don't be surprised if you don't end up there. You understand? Mm-hmm. Right? It says, it takes time. And then in the verse 5 there, it says here, but at the end it will speak and it will not lie. In other words, your vision must lead to reality. Do you understand what I'm saying? Those who wants to be opera singers, but you've never, like me now, never had anything. I don't know what keys and padlocks are, It's all confusing. Notes and pens, you mix them up. First time I had people that say, oh, you're singing off key. What do you mean? What key are you talking about? The vision must lead to reality. In other words, it must be founded on the insight that you have on your life. You dream based on those things that call to you, those deep concerns, those associations that you have positive. You understand? You dream based on those. So the vision must lead to a reality. It says it will not lie, because it's true. If a vision is written correctly, understood correctly, received correctly, it will not lie. It must come to pass. Do you understand? So if you see a vision that has lied, there was something there that was not correct, right? And finally, it requires perseverance, that you work through it. You don't give up. You keep pushing. You don't give up on yourself. You understand? It says there that though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come. Surely. It doesn't say it will come. It says it will surely come. Persevere. Work toward it. Keep contributing. Don't give up. When you make a mistake, keep pushing. You understand?